Thanks for having me. Just in terms of a bit of background, first of all, why I'm here today. So Emma and I met on the yacht, which if anyone's
Not my yacht.
no, and not my yacht, unfortunately either. So the yacht is a permanently moored boat or yacht, Temple Pier. Central London, and they have a members networking event once a month, the last Tuesday. Highly recommended. Are you a member, Emma?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's amazing. In fact, if you'd like to come, we
Yeah.
take people with us every now and then.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
On my yacht.
So just how you said it anyway.
Yeah.
Some of you have already been, haven't you? Yes. Who else has come with us?
Trip on the yacht, you know.
Yeah.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
That's no.
So yeah.
You meet people like Daniel.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, real mixed bag in the room or on the deck. But yeah, no. We met, started talking, realised we had a couple of things in common. Boredom being one of them, and then I went on to bore Emma with my life story, and she decided to inflict on you guys this morning me to come along and repeat the story. So. The title didn't take me long to think it up, to be honest. Every day is a school day, and I like to describe my career to date as successful failure. And so I have to say this is a very professional setup here. In case you're wondering what I'm looking at, there is a screen just here, which shows me what's on the screen and my next slide, thankfully. So that's what I'm looking at up there. Not an unwelcome spirit, as I've discovered from talking to Emma earlier today. So basically, my background. In fact, just before I get into that, does anyone know what an MSP is?
It's a mentoring solution for people.
Well, that is exactly my new strapline. 10 points for observation. So MSP is a managed service provider, and it's today what we call an IT support business. And so the IT support marketplace, specifically for small to medium enterprises, is probably about 6,000 or so businesses across the UK, and effectively that's the marketplace that my heritage is with. So I started in IT in the mid-90s. I'm a salesperson by trade, and achieved some early success in my career, and learnt how to be a professional IT salesperson. That is not a contradiction in terms, by the way. But being quite ambitious, I decided that I could do more. And in 2002, I formed my own business, co-formed a business with a friend and customer of mine, and that business was called Amacetia. I could do a whole other presentation just on Amacetia alone, but suffice to say, a 12-year roller coaster. It was my first proper business beyond my gardening business whilst I was at college, yeah, I learnt a lot. We've got a colourful version of me now. So 12-year roller coaster. So to begin with, what do we think I was there? Happy? Yeah. Spot on. So then, what's going on? What's going on here then? Yes, which leads to anger, and anger leads to the dark side. So after anger, what do we have there? Yes, spot on. And then the final part of the journey. What's going on here?
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly right. Confused.com. So that was the roller coaster over 12 years. So 2014, I'm happy again because I've sold the business. And that was a temporary happiness, really, maybe a relief. You know, there are good times and bad times, and there's a lot of reasons why people exit a business when they do. And I think for my business partner and I, the time was right, and as I say, for a number of reasons, we decided to move on. I'll come back to deal with 2014, or just before 2014, and on in a moment. But I effectively got sucked back into the IT marketplace after I originally thought I was done with it and was going to leave and go on to do other things, have a second career in a totally new marketplace and industry. And about 9 months after the exit was complete, the acquirer approached me. One of the directors of that business wanted to retire early, and they needed someone to buy his stake in the business and take on his role. So I said, well, yeah, I'm kind of interested, because if I'm honest, I miss a lot of the involvement in the business, and of course their business was now twice the size, so it was an interesting perspective. Originally they wanted me full time. I said, well, I kind of want to do 2 days a week. We settled on 4 days a week, and it ended up being 5 days a week. But interestingly, within that role, I had more time than I'd perhaps allowed myself when I was in business originally, and I really engaged with the wider MSP community. Started going to industry events, networking, just with no ambition other than to go along and learn and share. And I have to say, I really that process really changed me, and I've changed a lot over the last 5 years. I have to admit. So I discovered the MSP community. I felt a kinship. I understood. You know, what made them tick, the problems they faced, the opportunities they were trying to take advantage of, and to be fair, I just started talking to people, offering an opinion, and the response was, actually, Daniel, this is worth something to me, and so I began working with other MSPs, and in true MSP style, I began productising my time into a service, and more importantly into a recurring revenue, which is what MSPs are all about. So what about outside of IT and the MSP world? So I did have to check on the way over here actually this morning what year this came out, and it was 2013. So I went to the cinema. I'm a big Formula One fan, and I sat and watched this film. Has anyone seen? Yeah. Yep. So for those who haven't seen it, it's a Ron Howard film. So it's like Apollo 13, but in Formula One. And I have to say, this film was instrumental in helping me make the decision that I wanted to move on from the IT world. I wanted to form a second career in motorsport. I had grand ambitions of floating around with the F1 circuit across the globe every year. Never happier than at the side of a racetrack, just stood there watching the cars go by, smelling the fumes, and getting the rush, in truth, from motorsport. Many years before, I fancied myself as a motorsportist. I went to a course at Silverstone. It was a week-long Monday to Friday course, and it basically took those with budding ambition, and at the end you would leave with a racing license, which enabled you then to go racing. So the emotion of sitting in a single-seater car, driving around Silverstone was amazing. What was less amazing was everyone else on the course coming past me with far greater bravery and determination than me. So at the end of the course, I got the Merit Award for Most Improved Driver. Now that is code for give up now, Daniel. So I have to say the dream went on the back burner, and I redoubled my efforts in the world of IT. I didn't go racing, and I'm glad I didn't, because I really would have been wasting my money. But this film inspired me to realise that the depth of the industry behind the racing drivers and the effort that goes into raising sponsorship or partnerships, as the industry prefers, to go racing. And that was actually the original name of the limited company that is Daniel Welling today, which was Welling MSP. So originally the MSP stood for Motorsport Partnerships. Or motorsport, if you spell it as one word, sponsorships and partnerships. Thankfully, it also meant MSP, which we'll come on to in a moment. So yeah, anyway, watch this film. It really inspired me to break out of the business that I was in, and to effectively start from scratch. Day one after exit, I'm sat at my home office that I'd created, and I just started picking up the phone to people in my network. You might have heard I've exited the business. I'm now looking to forge a second career in motorsport. I don't know anyone in the industry, so please help. Various people suggested, "Oh, why don't you talk to so and so? Why don't you go to this website?" People were very giving of their contacts and knowledge. One phone call eventually led me to another, and I ended up picking up the phone to a gentleman. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name, Hunter Abbott, and I was introduced to him by Jeremy Hall. Jeremy said, "Look, about a year ago, I was at a dinner and I sat next to this guy who was a racing driver, and he was really inspiring, really great, really entertaining. Just give him a call and mention my name and ask him if he can help." So I did exactly that. "Hi Hunter, it's Daniel Welling. You don't know me, but a year ago you sat next to Jeremy Hall at a dinner event, and you really made an impression on him." And he said, "Actually, Daniel, I do remember Jeremy, and how can I help you?" So I went on to explain, this is what I want to do, and he gave me two bits of advice. The first bit of advice was go on to eBay, Daniel, and buy a book called Sponsorship and the World of Motor Racing. It's by a gentleman called Guy Edwards, and Guy Edwards was a racing driver, and I guess the peak, as I see it, of his career in motorsport was reaching Formula One, and the book that he produced and sold for £100 in the early 90s now circulates on eBay for between £300 and £500. It weighs a ton. It is literally this big, and it is a fascinating read for anyone that's interested in motorsport, and an even more educational read for anyone that wants to sell sponsorship. So I got the book, I read it, and one of the key takeaways that I took from it was his description of how he took part in racing in 1976, the same year that the film Rush was based on, and so the car on the right hand side is a Hesketh, and in the book he describes how he needed to raise £70,000 to compete in not the complete but a part of the 76 season, and the way he did it was he went to Penthouse magazine, and he said, "If I give you half of a Formula One car, can I have £70,000 worth of magazine advertising?" And they said, "Okay then." So he then went and found other people that would be prepared to pay him £70,000 for half an F1 car sponsorship and the same value in magazine advertising. So it had to be a new name advertiser, so they couldn't be taking away business that they didn't already have. But after various false starts, including giving someone a bit of a scare when he had to educate them as to what Penthouse magazine was. He found Rizzler that were more than happy. It was their perfect target market, and they even were really creative with the advertising, to the point where they had a scantily clad lady holding a pack of Rizzler on the front of the car. Really a great example of how two brands can come together around a sports sponsorship, and really leverage the value beyond the cash, and how you actually manage to generate money to effectively spend money in one of the most expensive sports that you can entertain. The book has a whole host of other really great, interesting stories, and I'd encourage you, if anyone is interested, to buy the book. I'm not selling mine, but if you can, get a copy of the book, have a read. Really interesting. So anyway, the second bit of advice that Hunter very kindly gave me is, he said, why don't you come up to Silverstone and meet the team that I'm currently driving for. So at the time, Hunter was racing in the British Touring Car Championship, the BTCC, which I don't know who's heard of, follows touring cars. Yep. So for those who don't know, it's effectively the premier UK motorsport series, and televised live on ITV4, 10 race weekends during the course of a year, and a cumulative audience of about 20 million. So that's 2 million a race weekend. Anyway, that was as high up the ladder as I could get. I did have a meeting with a Formula One team, and was very quickly put back in my box, and so the touring car team, run by a gentleman called Rob Austin and his father Richard, very kindly allowed me to represent them. So I now had some great ideas. I now had, there's an error message come up here. I don't know. It's not on this screen, so I think we're okay. So they very kindly let me represent the team. So I now had something to sell. I had some concepts that I could take to the market. And to be honest, I was giddy as a schoolboy. So here we are. Fast forward towards the end of the following season, and it's fair to say I've been pretty unsuccessful. The process, the concept that I thought, this is brilliant, this is going to work all day long, that Guy had impressed upon me from his book, it just didn't work. It's a different market. The idea of contras in motorsport is very common. So basically I ended up with a load of things that I could barter with, and a load of people that didn't want any of the things I had to barter with. So I had to think again. So I thought, well, the majority of my career has been within the SME market, and I'm trying to break into enterprise, corporate, large advertising agencies, those that have got the budgets, but they've already worked out how they can do deals like this that they want to now. The chance of me being successful is very slim, so I need something that's going to have a wider chance of success. So SMEs, the tail, is where most of my professional life has been. I think I understand them. I've been one. I am one. So I effectively packaged together, in true entrepreneurial style, the assets that I had available, and made it appropriate to the SME market. So I created something called the Business Network, which effectively began with hosting networking events at touring car race weekends. On the Friday, when the hospitality unit was unused, the team arrives in circus style on the Wednesday and the Thursday, gets fully ready for the race weekend, and then has this fabulous environment that's hardly touched on the Friday. So I said, brilliant. Doesn't cost anything extra. That's an asset I can sell. By bringing people along to network, they will experience, and hopefully I'll create a pot of prospects that will then be interested in spending some money. but because I'm now not dealing with Penthouse or Rizzler, I need to make the investments at appropriate levels. So I pre-packaged a number of approaches, and of course those that came along to my networking event then became my target market. So this was perhaps more successful than my previous endeavours. However, at the end of this year, and there's top left me, Rob and Hunter, hosting a networking event, and then in the garage looking at the car. At the end of this season, the primary sponsorship for the team Exocet was coming to an end. There was not a primary sponsor, so fundamentally there wasn't enough money to go racing. So Rob and the team merged with another team, Handy Motorsport, and at the time their one car was being fielded by a gentleman called Simon Belcher. Again, you could do a presentation just on Rob and Simon, really interesting characters. Suffice to say, they pulled their resources. Rob was driving, Simon was team managing, fielding a new car, a Toyota Avensis now from an Audi A4. And the business network program continued through that season and started to gain some pace. So we're now generating cash sponsorships from a previously untapped marketplace, but we're still not finding title sponsorships. And by the way, even McLaren have struggled with title sponsorships over recent years, if you follow Formula One. So anyway, I carry on. I feel like it's not really got the momentum that I wanted to have. I'm certainly not able to make a living from it. And of course, I'm doing this part-time because I'm doing this 5 days a week role with the IT company. So something's got to give here. And of course, I'm starting to talk to other MSPs as well. So effectively, I stepped down from my role with the IT business to a consulting role. Gave me a regular income and still had me involved, but it gave me more time to spend on this. And then I had this idea about, wouldn't it be better if I was not trying to find sponsors, but if I was the sponsor? And wouldn't it be great if I could make that sponsorship rooted in motorsport and appeal to the fans that are already there and have an interest, rather than me trying to find people that have an interest and bring them along to the sport and show them that they can get involved. And then there's this company called Red Bull, which have been quite successful in recent years. And for any that follow motorsport and Formula One in particular, you'll have also heard of a company called Rich Energy, quite famously involved. So I'm not the only one to have this idea to think, oh, perhaps there's money in soft drinks. Anyway, I decided that I would create a soft drink, and I would market it through motorsport on the basis that the soft drink would be reinvesting its profits into motorsport, which is what I wanted to do anyway, which is the whole reason I was involved, but now I'm just doing it in a slightly different way. So I did some research, built a business plan, again, learned a second new industry, or thought I had, and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of money is a dangerous thing. I formed the company in February 2017. By April 2017, the first race weekend of that season, I'm launching a soft drink at Brands Hatch. I have a stand. I have able assistants. I have a product to sell. And my concept was I would look for recurring revenue from the motorsport fan base. So come and try the drink. Did you know this is co-founded by Rob Austin, the racing driver that you love? And wouldn't you like to be a part of that and help Rob race in future years? So and all you've got to do is sign up to this direct debit subscription, and I'll send you your choice of 12, 24 or 36 bottles a month to your front door of this healthy beverage. So I'm helping your health.
Sounds like a great plan.
Yep, exactly right. And my target was to acquire 100 subscribers a race weekend. So by the end of the first year, I'd have at least 1,000 subscribers, and at that sort of level, I'm starting to tick over where I need to start to make an immediate profit. So anyway, great idea. So by the third race weekend, I was a little bit dejected. So we'd managed to have the worst weather you can imagine for the first 3 weekends. We're all huddled underneath the gazebo. No expense spared on the gazebo, by the way. In our talent drinks, Max, no expense spared on the Max. I didn't wear a catsuit, by the way. You'll be pleased to hear. Yeah, exactly right. Only at the weekends. So anyway, I'm a little bit dejected. So I start researching the market again, and basically I realise all the mistakes I've made. I decide that I'm not going to make my subscription model successful. I'm just not going to get the numbers that I needed. So I think, well, I've now got this product. How else can I sell it? So how does everyone else sell it? And they go through distributors, wholesalers, retailers. So basically there's this huge value chain as a way of achieving route to market. So that when you go into an SO and on the shelf and you find the product that you want to, the amount of effort that's gone into getting that product on the shelf is immense.
The price reflects it, doesn't it?
Sorry?
The price reflects it.
Ab-
Does it actually cost pennies?
Absolutely, yes. Well, my products cost too much. That's another lesson I learned. Because I thought if I put a ton of ingredients in it, it'll appeal to a wider audience. But actually, that just meant that I had to buy a load more ingredients every time I did a production run. And as you can imagine, you can't just go and produce this in cases of 12. And then when you've produced a load of stock, you've got to put it somewhere. And that actually leads me to the Borden connection. So I live in Marlow, and I wanted somewhere local that I could go and do my initial fulfillment myself. And I found a distribution, a warehouse partner, so not a distributor, since I'm referred to earlier, but a warehouse partner. At the time we're based in Slough. Brilliant, just on my doorstep. And then about 3 months in, when I'm all dejected because I'm not selling enough product, they then announced that, oh, by the way, we're closing this depot now. We're moving it to Borden. So it's all right, Daniel. It's only an hour and a half or so drive to get there. So anyway, that was my introduction to Borden. So although I was here for a little while in spirit, at least eventually the regular commute just didn't work for me. So I ended up finding a new warehouse partner. I also, though, throughout that course of 2017, refined the product, the marketing, came up with a better name. Again, you can look at the colour of the liquid in that picture, and you can perhaps assume that there might have been some sarcastic comments about the actual contents of the bottle, which I have to say is another funny story, because it wasn't actually going to be a coloured liquid at all until about 4 weeks out from the start of the racing season, when I'm just about to go to production, and the bottling company come to me and say, Daniel, there's a chance that your clear liquid could be tainted by residual dye in the system. So it might only be 1 in every 10,000 bottles, but basically it could come out a different colour or have like a real taint to it. It won't be a clear liquid. So I said, okay, so what do we do here? Well, why don't you just add a colour to your liquid? So anyway, they sent me the sample, and the first thing I thought when I looked at it, I thought this looks like urine. But this must just be my sense of humour. So I'm sure no one else would think that. Anyway, you can imagine a load of motorsport fans all huddled around the gazebo, and especially when I'm sampling it in little plastic cups. Anyway, we move on. So 2017, I've rebranded. I've added a second flavour because it turns out you can't just launch your one flavour into the retail channel. You need at least two. Which of course means you have to double your production because then you're producing two. And by the way, you've then got different colouring and flavouring. So basically, we've now got a remodeled product. The team have upgraded now to an Alfa Romeo, and we've also managed to upgrade the branding to actually start to incorporate the logo on the car to improve brand recognition as well. So now I'm going to retailers saying that we've got equivalent value, maybe 80,000-90,000 pounds of touring car value in advertising spend. We've got a range. We've got two products. I've worked out my value chain so that I won't go too bust to sell to them at the right price. So I feel like I'm re-energized to tackle the market. And in truth, it did have an impact, and I did get the product out into a wider distribution. I had the product in NISA stores, for example. I had a meeting at WH Smith's, and I declined their proposal. And ultimately, I learned probably that I should have stopped at the end of year one, but I wasn't ready to, and I felt that I'd identified what I needed to do to take the product on. But during the course of year two, I realised I'd effectively brought a knife to a gunfight. I did not have enough money or time, and I wasn't prepared to sink further investment, both cash and time, into it. So I haven't finished with the soft drink yet, and actually the ambition is still to do something with the drink, but in a different way and with a different business model wrapped around it. So what have I learned? Okay, well, first of all, there's going to be some cliches here, unfortunately. So first of all, you've got to have a realistic business plan. And when you think you've got it down, you've got to throw more challenges at it and say, well, what if I don't get this? And what if I don't get that? And how can I, I've got my cost down to this point, but how can I get it down to this point? And you have to consistently challenge to create the biggest wedge of profit or margin possible to give yourself the healthiest return. So even though it will change, and my business plan did change, for the first 6 months of 2017, I was bang on, but I had a hockey stick approach to my growth, which wasn't realistic. So if I'd carried on the same growth rate at 6 months, I would have realised how undercapitalised I was, and again, perhaps I wouldn't have gone again at the start of 2018. Find mentors and peers. So I've met some really fascinating people along the way. Some I've engaged with formally, some I've engaged with casually, and I've also now effectively the journey of being a mentee in one market has informed and made me a better mentor in the IT space. Never give up. Which you might say is contradictory to the previous slide. It is okay to take a time out, to regroup, to contemplate, to understand what you've learned, and effectively to get yourself ready to go again. Does it need any explanation? It's absolutely true. Cash is king. Profit is sanity. All of those cliches are so true, and they're there for a reason. They are absolutely, they do make sense. And as Stuart and I were discussing earlier, business is so simple. It's us that overcomplicates it. But you've got to love a trier, right? So. So now and next, I don't know how I'm doing for time actually. If I'm on time, then it's a total fluke. So now and next. Well, I'm going to carry on with the services I now provide back into the MSP community, which I've productised and refined over the last, well, probably now nearly 2 years, and that consists of mentoring, a little bit of recruitment, and more recently I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions, having bought and sold. It was another experience that I could package up and provide to the market. And with 6,000 SME-sized MSPs, the market is and will continue to have consolidation. It will always be a disparate market, but there's lots of new green shoots coming through, and there's lots of people that are reaching retirement age, for example, and they don't want to deal with the fact that your printer doesn't work or migrating your email anymore. You know, they want to go off and enjoy life. So there's plenty of opportunity in the MSP space, and I'm re-energised in that market, having found what I think is a really nice place for me in there. I'm not ruling out a return to full MSP-ship. However, there's some pretty thick red lines that I wouldn't want to adjust if I was to re-enter the market. And actually, I'm quite comfortable doing what I'm doing, so there isn't an urgency at the moment for me to do that. I'm looking for a partner to develop first, and you know, my ambition would be a licensing deal, something like that, that doesn't require me to put in huge amounts of capital to restart the selling process, but actually I need partners that have route to market, and ideally someone with route to market that doesn't have a brand or a concept. The product itself may well be completely re-engineered. The value is in the brand name, and the concept of funneling money back into motorsport and other sports. So I'm not done with motorsport either yet. Don't get me wrong, still involved in touring cars, and there will always be opportunities there. It's a fabulous sport. However, my ambition at the very beginning of the journey was Formula One, going back to the inspiring 1976 season and Rush. So I have a concept which I'm currently trying to gain traction with. The same concept that I had before in the touring cars, effectively aggregating SME sponsorship into something that would be palatable for the Formula One teams to get involved in, because effectively Formula One teams, they're in 7 digits. That's what they need when you're burning circa 10 to 15 million a month to go motor racing. £1,000, who cares? £100,000, who cares? But millions, okay, maybe interested, as long as it's not going to be too much of a draw on our resources. And so there is an opportunity there that I intend to pursue. Despite my complexion, I'm a warm weather animal, and actually the last 5 years has been inspiring. You know, from a 12-hour day, you know, working within a business, uber commitment. I've actually realised that I want something different out of life now. I don't want to work a 12-hour day, 6 days a week. I want to live abroad and cut out the worst of the winter. And so I need to do things that enable me to work wherever I am in the world. And the great news is that the MSP and IT industry are giving us some fabulous tools to do that. And finally, I want to enjoy what I do. and life is too short, so we have to really enjoy it. And the one story which I didn't tell you, the other connection, was going back to the Rush film actually. So I go along to this meeting at Silverstone. I meet Rob and his dad Richard, and learning about their backgrounds. First of all, Richard, fellow IT industry veteran. So we had some great commonality there. And secondly, Rob and Richard built the replica Ferraris for the Rush film. And Rob actually did some of the stunt driving, and has some cameo roles in the film as well. So for those who've seen Rush before, I'd encourage you to go and re-watch it and see if you can spot Rob in the film. And those who haven't watched it, definitely watch it. I think it's on Netflix and other popular movie sharing sites. So there you go. Any questions?
I was going to ask,
Yep.
what was your proudest moment in all of that so far?
Oh, I don't know. Well, the biggest deal that I've done is selling Amacetia. So I think that's probably emotion. Yeah, everything coming together. That's probably the thing that I'm most proud of. However, every day I find new, interesting experiences, and money is not the be all and end all, although cash is king. But those experiences. So I think that as a leaping off point for the last 5 years, what it's given me, I think, is so enriching. So yeah, probably that. Yeah.
The only comment I'd like to make is touring cars are way more exciting to watch than Formula One.
They certainly are. Door handle to door handle racing. Yeah. And although Formula One this year and some of last year, it's getting back there. It's getting back there. And the developments they're making to the car to make the racing closer, I'm sure will give some great action, and some great young talent as well coming through. But yeah, touring cars. If you've not been, it's really inexpensive to go. That they visit circuits across the country, and if you can go and stand at Brands Hatch, and if you can get into the pit area, which is restricted on race days, but I think you can get in there on the Friday practice day and even the Saturday. I think the Saturday too. If you can just go and stand at the back of the pits and you see the cars come along the first straight, you see them go up around the first few corners and then swoop back behind. Really great experience. So.
Can you get a wheelchair there?
You probably can, but you'd have to get guided access, because you enter under so the general is pedestrian access through a tunnel, but there are access roads, but it's when it crosses the circuit, so it has to be.
Most events will have disability access.
Yeah.
Because their carer will be able to
Because it's my husband, and that's he loves watching it.
you should be able to get tax on.
Yeah. Just call the circuit, and they'll again they're all. It's a real family friendly environment. Most of the teams are operated by families, and the tracks are all family run. And, well, normally, even Brands Hatch and some of the other circuits that are all owned by Jonathan Palmer, who's the XF1 driver. It's still a family affair, isn't it? So. Yeah.
You seem to have had some brilliant ideas that
Mm-hmm.
you brought to life.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to have had a focus for a couple of those ideas. Are you still open to new ideas? Do ideas come to you and you say yes or no, or do you have things that you mull over a lot?
Great question, and yeah, all the time there's stuff in my head swishing around. I think probably the key phrase around that is having the self-discipline. I think Stuart and I mentioned this earlier when we were chatting about shiny things being, one of the curses of being an entrepreneur, or a wantrepreneur as I refer to myself. So I don't feel like I've fully graduated yet. But yeah, it's being able to have a method that works for you, for me, that doesn't stifle that creativity, but equally doesn't let it get in the way of the disciplined behaviours that you need to do to see through the ideas that you've committed to. So a lot of people that I hear speak inspirationally are like always having a bit of pen and paper by your bed so you can wake up or write it down. As long as you write it down, you can go back to it, and it just gets it out of the head rather than feeling like you've got to. Oh, I've got this idea, so I've got to do something about it now. But yeah, all the time, and I have to say that I really enjoy networking generally. Obviously, most of it now is specifically within the IT space, but just the creativity within that environment, I really enjoy listening to ideas people have got, and some of them I think, I might borrow that, yeah, exactly. But equally, hopefully, there's stuff that I put out there as well, and I put it out there for people to consume it. So yeah.
So, very clear. How did you manage the opinions of your friends and family when they saw, they just gently tried to guide you, or they told you what they thought about?
Yeah, yeah. Thankfully, I've had an understanding family all the way through, really, that have been supportive, and I guess I'm probably now a more compliant mentee now than I was before. So there was probably a lot of over enthusiasm in my younger days, and lots of determination. So in truth, I was going to do something if I wanted to do it, and so I might have not taken advice that perhaps I should have done on reflection, but equally. You've just got to sometimes make a decision and stick with it, right or wrong. So yeah, I probably just would have made different mistakes than the mistakes I did make had I listened to other people. But yeah, a supportive family, and yeah, but equally, I think there's a lot of great opinions out there, and you should give them all equal weight. So. Even a broken watch is right twice a day. I borrowed that from someone else, by the way. So yeah.
Can I ask, sorry?
Yeah, sure.
When you were at the point of you thought that you probably should give it up, but you weren't done yet and you wanted to carry on, do you think that was more of an emotional point, or did you really think the business could work?
I think probably both, to be honest. And if I'd not had the resources to do it, that probably would have made the decision for me, because I didn't have at the time, I felt, a strong enough message to go and raise external funding. So it was all down to me, and ultimately never bet more than you can afford to lose. So yeah, so that, again, you can't have regrets, but yeah, it was probably both, if I'm absolutely honest. Yeah.
I've got one more question.
Yep.
Just popped in my head.
Yep. Yeah, shiny thing. I have done, but actually I don't tend to. I do. Well, sometimes I find it really cringe-worthy, and so the one program that I have continued, that I have stuck with, is The Apprentice. I think it probably has something to do with the time of week as well that it's on. Like a Sunday evening, I'm still enjoying my weekend. I don't want to get all of that washing over
About
me.
the
Yeah.
dream factor,
Oh,
where
right,
people
okay.
live their dreams and
Yeah.
their, you know, their business and
Yeah.
the pride and joy, and
Yeah.
then they get a reality check.
Yeah.
I think that's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
That's really, to me, that's the most interesting part
Yeah.
of that whole program
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
And seeing dreams dashed, or equally
The way
dreams.
that they see
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
that see through things.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think. Decisions like that.
Yeah.
So,
And some they'll get right, and some they get wrong, and it's that, I think it's that acceptance of, you know, failure is okay. You know, it's part of the the reality of doing anything. You know, you may win or lose, you may draw, but yeah. So no, I don't tend to watch it, but yeah, there's been some characters
Yeah.
on there. So
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Having dealt with high street retailers myself, what was it about the WH Smith deal that didn't appeal?
The money they wanted.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's literally the numbers.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And not that they wanted money. Because that's you know, I understand that now. That's part of their business model. But it was the fact that I couldn't see how I was going to make the money back. There just wasn't the margin in it to make it work. So and of course it required, you know, capital up front as well, which wasn't particularly appealing.
Because that's a really interesting point about retail. When people are going into the supermarkets and so on, that they don't necessarily, they're trying to get a product into the shops and so on, they don't realise that often you have to pay for your space. You have to put money up to the large chains to actually gain that space on their shelves. They don't just say, hey, put it on the shelves to see if it sells, return, as it bar return. They want you to upfront money to offset and the costs of actually setting it all up. And it's like a bidding war almost, isn't it?
Yeah, and
It's really big eye opener. People can't scale up because of it.
No, and quite right too. And you know, if I was them, I'd have done nothing differently. You know, it's exactly. And I didn't, but others will. So yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, as I say, knife to a gunfight. It just needed far deeper pockets and more bravery. So.
Follow up.
Yep.
I've followed the Rich Energy drink story with quite some interest, maybe more obsession about it, because where the money's coming from, I have no idea. Okay, so there's a racing team called Haas,
Potato. Yeah.
HAAS, and their sole sponsor is an energy drink called Rich Energy. And when you go digging, it's a very, very shallow hole that you end up in that ends with this really odd company, but it's got millions of investment, and it claims that it's got distribution deals with major distributors around the world for their energy drink. And they came out with this logo that they then got sued over because it was basically a rip-off of a motorcycle company's logo, but they didn't stop it. They didn't take it off of the Formula One team, and there's a whole load of controversy about it. Now, Haas saying that they're financially independent of the energy drink sponsorship anyway. What's your take on it? It's an odd situation, and it's really nerdy and niche, but given that you're overlapped with motorsport and drinks, I'm just interested.
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, it hurts my ambition because rightly or wrongly, and you know, I don't know the full story. You know, I'm privy to what comes out in the public domain, and I can form my own opinions. And it's been very entertaining. If you follow the social media from the drinks company more than the team, but it's been a very difficult situation, which I think they've handled it well. But the difficulty for me is if I'm a team and I've had issues with a sponsor following through on its commitment in terms of continuity of that support and the provision of funds, and I've planned my financing around it. If I then don't get that result, I'm then going to be once bitten, twice shy. I'm going to be, well, are we going to take Daniel seriously? Will he really be able to pull together the money? And it's a chicken and egg thing. You've got to have something to sell before you can sell it. So yeah, I think for me it's probably damaging to my ambitions in the near term. But yeah, my understanding is the team and the company are two separate entities. The team ultimately is primarily funded by the owner, who has a business, industrial machining business that provides whatever the shortfall in sponsorship is, and that team has run without big sponsorship support since its inception, and it's got a really interesting business model. So they buy in rather than develop a lot of the components on the car, so much so that they've attracted criticism that they're effectively a Ferrari B team, because most of the car is Ferrari. Well, it's a chassis made by another company called Dallara, I think. But yeah, so they've obviously created a business model, and they've determined that they can go racing sustainably without sponsorship. But the thing about motorsport is you can compete on one budget level, but to be competitive you need another budget level. So do you want to turn up and not be competitive, or do you want to have enough money to put the investment into development of the car? And therein lies the biggest bet of all, because even if you've got the money to field what should be a competitive car with a competitive budget, it may still not work. And both Haas and Williams in particular have struggled, especially this year, and equally McLaren for a number of years, I guess being the most local team to Borden, bringing it back to Borden. They've been very well funded, but they just haven't had a competitive car. It's starting to again get much better this year. But yeah, so to answer your question, they're two separate entities. I don't know the origin of the money for Rich, but I can tell you that it's an expensive endeavour to establish a soft drink brand. So to do what they've done already shows that there's something there, and as I say, it's provided us some entertainment as fans, but ultimately I do think it's bad for the sport, because I think it will diminish the opportunity for ambitious sponsors to get involved, and I think it will turn people off, and unfortunately the sport needs money you need money to go racing. So
Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
I'm not actually a great motorsport fan, but with the demise of the petrol engine, is Formula One going to go over to electric? And if it is, perhaps there's a little margin for you here to actually have the roar of the cars manufactured artificially, because otherwise it's going to be a really sort of quiet day.
Do you think what we around the track?
Yeah. Won't be any noise.
It's not that quiet. They actually make quite a whine.
Yeah. Electric.
Yeah. They're like I liken them to really big remote control cars.
Can you imagine a state
yeah.
electric car,
Yeah.
but multiplied by about 100?
Yeah.
So are they getting into electric, are they?
They do electric.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, as currently a separate series, there is talk in the future of will the two merge together, and I guess I'd have mixed opinions on it as a fan. I'd have mixed opinions on it. I think the car's already too quiet, and Formula One petrol engines are actually supplemented by electric power as well. So they have energy reclamation technology, and then they're able to then deploy that. So they have batteries, they have electric engines, so they're actually really complicated. So a Formula One engine is, I think, 1.6 litres, but still kicking out, you know, close to what, 900 brake horsepower or something. Yeah. So, yeah, but really clever tech. But you know, they pay 30 million-ish a year just for the engine, or a supply of engines on a managed basis. So so really clever tech. But that Formula One has always been informing the future of motoring. You know, it's a test bed, and I think a lot of the tech that's been employed in Formula One will find its way into road-going electric cars, and probably already has. And in fact, Williams have their business model is now based less around sponsorship and more around their engineering division. So I think they make a lot of the batteries for electric cars, and key in the development of that as an industry. So that's how Formula One. I mean, you know, if you take Ferrari, originally and today still probably, you know, they build road cars to make money to go racing, and their racing makes their road car sales better. So it's like this, win on a Sunday, sell on a Monday was the old sponsorship adage, and that was the business model of old, and it's still true today. You know, you need to make money to go racing. So do you make it from stuff you do as a byproduct of the racing, or do you get sponsorship, or do you get paying drivers, of which all of above are a good strategies. So.
What's the actual budget for a touring car?
For a touring car, so to compete, probably about 350-ish. To be competitive, probably about 650 a year, a car. So a two-car team would need, you know, give or take, say 800,000 to maybe 1.2 million, something like that. So,
Hang on a minute.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
Red Bull, you mentioned,
Mhm.
famously sponsored the Soapbox Derby,
Mhm.
actually, and I wondered whether your brand first might be interested in sponsoring the Borden Soapbox Derby.
Oh,
Ah.
Coming to Borden,
Ah.
if it gets off the ground in that time.
Well, yes.
Whether you might want to play another kind of role here, going down Shelley Hill.
Certainly sounds interesting. Yeah. I would have thought, as I don't currently have a product in production and available for sale on the soft drink, probably not necessarily on the soft drink, but
10 months yet,
okay. Yeah.
I think a
Yeah.
soapbox is much less than 1.2 million.
Yes. Yeah.
And you only need one.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
only need one.
For £5,000 you can have an awful lot of sponsorship.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding a sponsor from the local communities.
Much better,
Yeah.
If you could give some input on finding a sponsor.
Yeah.
Sponsorship
That it's
Yeah.
work for
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah.
Give a talk all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's always interesting in business because there's always byproduct of what you do that you don't have a value on because it's the byproduct. It's like the waste, the leftover. Where actually that might be a skill or it might be an actual piece of waste that could be valuable to somebody else.
Mhm.
So your experience with those sponsorship packages is completely foreign to a lot of people because they don't know how that industry works.
Mhm.
But being able to transfer that to someone and say, you could make this work for you because here's the target audience, this is what you have to do, we pro rata that, we contra that, and that builds into it for you and you can do that with it.
Mhm.
That there's loads of examples where that in our businesses, small businesses, where you could take that knowledge, skill and experience, package it up and then go and approach and start a whole new vibrant business or cash flow. Is that something that appeals?
Yeah, I'd be very happy to help. So yeah, definitely. You got my commitment that I'll gladly provide guidance. And who knows where that might lead. Yeah.
It's definitely about business.
Yeah,
boxes,
yeah.
certainly touring cars.
Well, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's got
Yeah.
wheels on it, if it gets
Yeah.
competitive,
Yeah. Yeah.
it does.
No engines,
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
yeah. Well, that you know of. Hub motors look very much like, you know, normal hubs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if they're making a sound. Yeah. So.
Get everyone who's on it go.
Yeah. Put spokes in the wheels that clatter, so
Yeah.
it sounds like,
Yeah.
Anyway, any other questions? Any other questions? Fantastic. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's
Daniel.
right. Pleasure.
Very
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
interesting.
Thank you for having
Really
me.
interesting talk.
Cheers.
I wish you every success with your Thirst sponsorship in future, and stick around and everybody else will have a chat. Next week, don't forget, it's